Hi there to my Earth dominant people. This is your reading for the week of May 3rd. And Earth dominant means the majority of your planets are in the Earth element, right? Which you can find at astro.com and just count how many planets are in the Earth element. Or sometimes you're tied for number one, right? Either that or you know your kapha dosha, right? You're primarily kapha dosha in Ayurvedic medicine, or you just know you're very earthy, how you identify with the earth element and its style, right? So however you came upon this reading, or maybe the topic, right? The title spoke to you. However you came upon it, you're in the right place, all right? So we'll see if it resonates. For the week of May 3rd, how do we want to start it out? I'm going to go to the Wisdom Cards by Louise Hay and just pick and just see what we're focusing on. For our Earth dominant people. Let me know if these readings are interesting you, right? If they're working out for you. Or if another format might work better. I can explore that. Just let me know if they're resonating. So Earth dominance. I help create a world where it is safe to love each other. Interesting. I help create a world where it is safe to love each other. Every time I meditate or do a visualization for healing, I am connecting with like-minded people all over the planet. And walking your talk and embodying the energy, right? You're embodying the change you want to see and maintaining it. Interesting, I was just having a conversation with an Earth dominant friend and telling her she was a huge source of stability for me. She modeled stability and self-acceptance and humor during a time where we were friends over a decade ago, and I was in a really fragile place emotionally with my self-identity and with big changes in my life. And she came with a lot of grounded energy and stability and certainty, and that made me feel safe to open, right? So you have this nurturing ability. Let's flesh that out with some oracle cards. Interesting. Clear and shield your energy. Clear and shield your energy. So maybe you're doing that with visualization, meditation, right? Connecting to the energies you want to feel more of. And maybe not everyone has the ability to manage their own energy. And so you're learning to create boundaries around that, right? Because you can only do so much when you clear and shield your energy. At some point, there needs to be a boundary in place that people that can't do that for themselves, unless, they're your responsibility as in they're your child. And even in some situations there, people need support, need help. They can't. So, maybe part of the message there is not taking responsibility for other people's energy as well, right? If you're an empath, that could be the case. And then fluorite, natural beauty and authenticity. Be yourself as God made you naturally attractive and lovable, inside and out. So interesting that authenticity came out, because, being comfortable with yourself enough to show up as your authentic self, that's part of the purpose of the spiritual path, right? If that's what you're using the spiritual path for authenticity. So being real and, not in lieu of growth, right? And not saying you're perfect just as you are, don't grow any further. No, that can be counterproductive, but just acknowledging how much growth you've had, and that that maybe you have a lot of natural gifts and potentials and you're refining them. So don't forget to acknowledge your strengths, right? Sometimes earth signs can be very hypercritical of themselves as well as others, but most it seems to focus on yourself, right? And that then it flows out. So that hypercritical nature helps you achieve a level of excellence that others may never even dream of. But you're being encouraged here to put your focus back on your strengths and acknowledge the progress you've made, right? And that can be part of your meditation and gratitude practice is getting some of that certainty from, look at all you've come through and how strong you are, right? Maybe that's part of how you do it. Can't make this up. Commit to a spirit of excellence. Right, earth sign? I mean, that you're no stranger to that. Whatever you do, do well. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10. Commit to a spirit of excellence. That's what we were just saying, right? Earth signs, like, or earth dominance. You put high standards and high stakes on everything you do. You have this hypercritical, sometimes perfectionistic tendency. Cover all your bases, right? I understand I have an earthy style. So you'll never fall flat on your face, but afterwards you might judge yourself really hypercritically right after you give a presentation, sing a song, whatever it is. If it's in the public eye, in any capacity, you might be hypercritical of yourself. So there are strengths and there are weaknesses to that. The strength is you'll never fall flat on your face, right? It'll always be at a certain level of excellence. But you also might not be willing to move into the unknown, which would crack it open even further, right? And maybe you've never experienced a safe, nurturing environment to explore. And can you create that for yourself, right? A lot of arts metaphors are coming in, like an acting class where it's safe for you to go there, to just go all out and see what happens, right? A practice space where you can practice channeling energy or stretching your range somehow, right? Where there's no risk, instead of attempting to do so in front of an audience, or where it actually would really count if you fell on your face, right? Allow yourself, because I've experienced that where certainty, particularly in performance, right? Because I was a stage performer, which lent itself to my healing path, and healing arts, right? The performing arts moved effortlessly into the healing arts for me, because I was already utilizing my ability to attune and all the other skills you need as an artist, or as a healer. I was using them as an artist. So this was one way I was getting in the way and sabotaging my ability to kind of break through. Was I needed to over prepare, and I was giving into fear of the unknown. I didn't like the uncertain elements of being live. I also wasn't willing to relinquish control to creative flow, right? So that was actually sabotaging me and inhibiting me from expanding my ability, because you have to co-create. It's a co-creative process. Much like anything you're manifesting right now, it's a co-creative process, right? There's information that wants to come through you. So if you only focus on the knowns, the certainty, the things you've already discovered, or the things that are already discovered, there won't be breakthrough, right? Right? Much like science or art or anything. If you only explore what's known and certain, there's no room for breakthrough. So acknowledge the unknown and the power there. There's untapped potential here. And that will put you on an extraordinary level, right? Even above excellence. And co-create with that, because the skills are there. Of course they are. Are we surprised? Earth sign or Earth dominant. Where should we go to next? Okay, archetype cards by Carolyn Meese, and see what part of yourself wants to take the spotlight here. Maybe take some of the light away from the inner critic, right? The inner perfectionist, the part that knows everything is certain, right? Because it would be too risky to not know, to not have an answer, to say I don't know even. So is there another part that would like to say hi and just share some wisdom, or maybe another part that's getting in the way? Let's see. What part wants to take the spotlight here for our Earth dominant people? Samaritan. Samaritan refines your capacity to help those you would prefer to ignore. Interesting. Refines your capacity to help those you would prefer to ignore. And then shadow attribute, exacting appreciation and recognition for the help you offer. Exacting appreciation and recognition for the help you offer. That's the shadow. And then the light is refines your capacity to help those you would prefer to ignore. So maybe the Samaritan is coming in to say, you know, maybe your focus is in the wrong direction, right? That what you're doing, the impact is in the service, right? And while service can be a love language for an Earth dominant, it's just part of the style, right? Acts of service can be the love language for many Earth dominants. Is the focus on where the credit's due, or is it in the act of service in general? That might be something to look at and tweak in your mind, right? Because what we're doing is trying to disengage or circumvent energy, redirect energy that's currently moving in the wrong direction, creating suffering, right? So if you're doing an act of service in order to receive something, it's not service anymore, and that's why it doesn't feel in integrity, right? It doesn't feel in alignment anymore. And it's something that's covert that you're not really clear about. It's not something you're intentionally doing. It's probably linked to feelings of being worthy, being good enough, being lovable. And that can happen, right? Particularly if it's a love language, it can feel like I'm doing this to overcompensate for something, as opposed to I'm offering this because it feels good to give this in particular, whatever this is, right? And that's where we come from an overflow. Also, it's interesting that the wording on here was what you would prefer to ignore. And because we were just talking about, I say we, but I mean, I was just talking about whoever's co-creating with me here. We're just talking about acknowledging the unknowns, right? The unseen. Maybe that's something you prefer to ignore because it's not certain, it's not solid, it's not stable. It's the moving part here. And you think, I can fill in that gap too, right? I'll fill in that too. I don't want that unknown, but it's there, and even without acknowledgement, it amplifies its effect, right? If we don't acknowledge and account for the unknown. For example, for me, I have to account for the fact that in a heightened state in front of an audience, I sing a little higher. So I have to transpose the key up, maybe a half step, right? So, or just be really aware that the instrument changes in the heightened state. If I just ignore that and I don't account for that, and I say it shouldn't be that way, it shouldn't be that way, I'm ignoring reality. And maybe there are truths in the world that are like that for you too, right? Where it shouldn't be this way, so I refuse to acknowledge it. No, that's not right. Shouldn't be that way. And yet that's how things tend to play out, right? So just acknowledging those things you're kind of unwilling to look at or unwilling to accept in order to strengthen you, right? To take that stability and that certainty, which you've already started doing. I don't know any earth dominant person who hasn't done some kind of work in self-mastery. It's just the nature, right? Because you're so critical and always looking for ways to improve. So it's just another level, another layer of rearranging things, creating order, right? We love order. How the energy wants to flow optimally. Let's get some angel therapy from the Angel Therapy deck by Doreen Virtue and see if any more information wants to come out there about a resource or something else that will help this process. I also want to flesh this out a little bit with some tarot cards and get a little, some more details there. Maybe more confirmation that I'm on the right path here with this. Manifestation power. Manifestation power. Use your spiritual gifts and natural abilities to attract your desired outcome. So there is a powerful ability to manifest on the physical plane. And that is the earth energy, right? The earth element physicalizes on the earth plane. So what is it that you're seeking to manifest here? There might be small tweaks that we're working with as far as how the energy's flowing, and maybe that's what's preventing the full manifestation. Let's look at some tarot cards and see what's coming up. Because you help create a world where it is safe to love each other. And maybe that's a should right now. Maybe that's a should right now. So that was too many cards. But the Queen of Wands did fly out. I put it back. But we'll see if she comes out again. You know, the Queen of Wands, you might be a fire sign with earth dominance, right? With the dominance of earth elements. You might also be working with a fire dominant woman or a fire sign female. So Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. So, you know, the Wheel of Fortune's the bottom of the deck. So looking at the Wheel of Fortune, that is something that's process oriented, right? As the wheel spins, this can be related to karma. It can be something cycling through, and also good fortune, right? The manifestation of your good fortune or positive outcome. We have the Ace of Cups here. So a new emotional beginning, maybe in love, right? Maybe part of this is you being hypercritical over giving in love, and it's sabotaging relationships, or you feel taken for granted, right? Maybe you're giving in order to receive love, right? Or to feel worthy of love, and it's not working, it's not sustainable, and it's preventing you from moving on because maybe you're investing so much in one person that it's challenging to move forward when it's time, or maybe you're just carrying more of the burden of the relationship. The other person's getting real lazy, and that's frustrating, right? As you carry this heavy burden, 10 of Wands, trying to bring all of this into a new beginning, right? Maybe it's also about the baggage you're bringing in, right? Pains and hurts from the past, assumptions, lack of faith, right? Just this heavy burden. The Justice card's coming out. You're seeking balance here, or the situation is balancing out, right? If you're thinking of a particular person or situation, you know, a fair outcome is promised. This is also Libra energy. So if you're working with an air sign, someone in the sign of Libra, that might mean something. We also have the Lovers, Major Arcana, Lovers card, romantic relationship. So this can be about choice. It can also be about divine union, partnership, right? Divinely guided. And you come into union. See, this is on the opposite side of Justice. So we have these two cards where you bring your burden, you bring the burdens or overburden yourself in the relationship by taking on too much in order to create this new beginning. But on the other side of Justice is the Lovers. So this cycle, this imbalance, right? And it's probably ancestral, right? You've probably learned it. It's a pattern you've taken on. And maybe that's that Samaritan, you're giving in order to receive. So it's you're overcompensating, and it's heavy. It just feels heavy, right? We have the star energy. This is Aquarius. So lots of air sign energy here. Aquarius, or the star, is a big dream, right? Maybe this relationship is a dream. It's your dream to have this stable give and take in relationship. Grounded energy. There is good fortune on your side with the Wheel of Fortune. And a breaking of this pattern, and maybe that's why you're clearing and shielding your energy against this toxicity. And you're being acknowledged as making the right choice here. Committing to excellence. Sometimes that means doing less, which can be harder, right? Sometimes it's about being stable internally and addressing the wounding that's creating the pattern. So maybe you're showing up and doing all these amazing things and giving yourself a lot of brownie points for it, and it's not really being appreciated on the other side. It's not really creating attraction, right? It's not appreciated. It's not, like, if you think about what creates attraction for you, is it the people that bend over backwards doing for you, right? Or that are there unconditionally, that love unconditionally. Chances are you're taking those people for granted. And maybe that's the lesson you're learning here. That the Samaritan doesn't give in order to receive, right? There's not this unconscious agreement that I'm giving so that I get intimacy, or so that you never leave, or whatever that clause is, right? In the agreement. So the idea here is that you're enough, okay? That look at those wounds. It's a human thing. The greatest two fears of humans are that I'm not enough and I will not be loved, and we all grapple with it. I'm not enough, I won't be loved. We all grapple with those fears. They pop up, they do. So don't give them more weight than they need. It can be a exacerbated earth to live in those fears, and to really give into them, and to have an overwhelming fear. But know that it's human. It's human nature. So I asked for a guardian or guidance from the ancestors and what is this deck? I can never remember the name. Angels and Ancestors. The deck by Kyle Gray. We have Peacekeeper. Peacekeeper, let go of the need to be right. So this pattern might be associated with, but I'm the good girl, I'm the good boy, right? Who shows up. Look, I'm consistent. You can trust me, I'm not going anywhere, right? And sometimes those things kill attraction. So I see. Okay, so if you're prioritizing and valuing certainty over uncertainty, you're going to withhold your love when you're not certain, right? In relationship. And that can be very hurtful. And at the same time, the more comfortable you can be with the uncertainty, the more peace you'll feel inside. And the more you will draw the other person in, right? So, and so that's the exchange, right? That's the shift here, that the certainty and stability and peace come from me and my resources internally, my emotional fitness, my emotional resilience, not from things appearing the same way every day, the same, right? Right? Almost like an OCD. That can be a symptom of exacerbated earth energy. So what can you do to maintain your own inner peace? What can you do to grow in emotional fitness here? Can you shift this idea of I need to be certain, I need to be right, into wanting to understand, right? Wanting to understand and be understood, and being comfortable with things that you'll never understand, maybe never be acknowledged or seen for, right? And how can you get those emotional needs met in other ways, healthier ways, sustainable, satiating ways that have a longer term effect? Let's get one last card from the Crazy Sexy Love Notes deck by Chris Carr and see something bigger is on the way. Something bigger is on the way. Allow your vision to expand and be open to the form it takes. You may discover that you were dreaming too small, or that what seemed like an obstacle is actually pointing you in a better direction. The universe always has your back. So you're co-creating here. That maybe this is a situation where it's really not you. It's what you're allowing in, right? Maybe you're allowing people in that aren't a good match for you, and that's being revealed, right? Maybe that's being revealed and you think it's you and it's not, right? It's just the nature of this connection. And where are those connections that feel good, that feel like a win-win, that feel like you leave them with a state of peace or exuberance, right? That you don't feel like you have to have no boundaries to sustain and maintain, because that's not working, right? That's what's not working here. So justice can also be about fairness to self, right? Being fair to yourself, putting down this burden, this idea that I have to serve with no boundary to create this new beginning. Maybe you're working towards a new beginning with a person, like this is what you're hoping for. That's just not a good match for you. Maybe it's a toxic situation. Maybe this person's just toxic for you, right? We don't want to label this a toxic person, but maybe this situation is just not right, a good fit for you, a good match, right? The balance of elements is not optimal, and that there's something bigger on the way, a better match, a divine match. So that means you're going to have to grapple with some uncertainty, right? While that person moves closer to you. Because as you hold on to someone from the past, the something bigger that's on the way can't enter. So clearing them and shielding your energy field that way. All right. And being comfortable in the meantime with the uncertainty. Something bigger's on the way. Something that you don't have to drain yourself to maintain. All right. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was of service. And sending you so much love, my Earth dominant people. And I will see you in the next reading. Thanks for liking the video and subscribing to the channel. All right. Bye, empath.